Morning, everybody. I'd like to call this Municipal Planning Commission meeting to order. The Municipal Planning Commission is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is now open for public attendance in person. However, members may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. As per Wheatland County Policy 7.13, members of the public are not permitted to speak unless the Commission agrees to hear from them. If the Commission agrees to allow the public to speak, the Chair will call upon specific individuals at that time. Please note that this call is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website and/or social media. For any individual using the conference call line, we ask that you mute your phone to eliminate background noise. Everyone has a right to be present at Municipal Planning Commission meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the Chair as per Municipal Government Act Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. And with that, we have an agenda before us. Are there any additions?
None from administration.
Commission's wishes.
Move the agenda is presented.
Agenda is being, all in favor? That passed. We have a copy of the unapproved minutes of August 23, 2022 in front of us.
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Bigger. Is that all in favor? That is passed. It moves us to development permit applications, 2.1, DP 2022-173.
Good morning. I'm Suzanne Hayes, Development Officer with Wheatland County. The application before us is for a dwelling manufactured type 2. The location plan is on page 15 of the agenda package. It is located approximately 1 mile east of the village of Standard on Township Road 251. The circulation map is on the same page. We circulated to landowners within 1 mile. We didn't receive any responses from agency circulation or internal concerns, but from the circulation to adjacent landowners, we received 10 responses. 5 of them were included in the agenda package, and 5 of them came in after the agenda was posted on the website. Would MPC like them read?
I would like to have them read in. Can we say, I would like to see a unanimous, can we show, say, vote of hands that all in favor of having read in? Could you please go ahead and read them in, please?
I believe Matt's going to do that.
I'll read them for you, Suze. So I am reading the after the fact submissions. So I'll start. Wheatland County letter of objection regarding file DP 2022-173 development permit. Legal plan 121143 B1L1 Northwest 12522 west of the 4th. Land use country residential. Proposal dwelling manufactured 2. 36-foot times 24-foot modular dwelling. Along with our neighbors within a 1 mile radius of the above development, Keith and I are both disturbed and dismayed by the above proposed development within less than 1 mile from our homes and farms. Our letter will address the following concerns and objections regarding this development permit. County notifications. Proper and timely communication and notification of a proposed development of an acreage subdivision in our county and our farming community is extremely important. The letter describing the proposed development was mailed on August 24th, a Wednesday, and our letters of objection were due September 5th, the holiday Monday. That left us less than 1 week, including mail service. This is unacceptable, and especially to your farmers who are heavy into harvest. It is vital that your county bylaws protect your county residents with realistic and timely notifications. Registered letters should be mailed to our stakeholders. Both the county and the stakeholders will be certain the notification has been received. As many of us still have not received our letters by September 2nd, and through many email conversations back and forth with Suzanne, we were finally able to receive a September 13th extension. We are trusting this gives us our letters time to be read and scrutinized. County bylaws. 8.10.7, application for developmental permit for manufactured dwelling 2 must include a pre-application inspection report prepared by a registered engineer or a safety code officer at the expense of the applicant. The report must identify the dwelling's structural integrity and suitability to be relocated into county, providing recommendations on the dwelling, overall condition, and any updates or renovations that must be made. Color photos of all elevations and additions must be available. Number 1, an unsuitable and unsightly house has suddenly been moved into the midst of our well-beloved homes, acreages, farms, and countryside. It is sitting on unsightly blocks. The photograph provided in our letter does the house more justice than it deserves. 2, our beautiful view over the beautiful county has a so-called house plopped in the middle. Our county is in need of defining what they deem suitable, and their standards are in need of upgrading. It is not suitable to us, and it should not be deemed suitable to be moved into our county. 3, the pre-application inspection bylaw 8.10.7 has been ignored. The house has arrived without a pre-application inspection, and the house is already located. It had not been approved to be relocated into our county. 4, your letter states, the house is in good state of repair and to the satisfaction of the developmental authority. It was constructed after 1976 to CSA standards, and it is deemed structurally sound by the safety code inspector. Required repairs include replacement of roof, siding, windows. We need to ask your safety code inspector a question about his report. How can a dwelling in need of new siding, a new roof, and new windows be deemed suitable to be moved into our county? It may be structurally sound, but it is not suitable, nor does it have integrity. A poor roof, poor siding, and poor windows all sitting on cement blocks is the sum total of its appearance. The bylaws have clearly been ignored. The house has been relocated without inspection. It has been inspected after it has been moved and is not suitable to be relocated. 5, approval of any development in our county should be taken seriously and processed with diligence. Bylaws should be constantly reviewed and updated based on past experience, and those bylaws must be followed without exception. It is why they are there. The slum acreage scattered around our county means there are improvements to be made. Many acreages are simple, neat, and tidy, and there is a pride in their home, their yard, and respect for their neighbors and their homes. The house in question instantly raises a red flag and has already become a detriment to our homes and our community. 6, this is at new development on a virgin acreage, and now is the time to have stringent infrastructure bylaws in place. Now, not later, is the time to control whether or not it is an asset to the county and its neighbors or a liability. Too late is too late. 7, any house moved into our county can be modest, but it is essential they are aesthetically desirable and suitable. Yes, a house has to be deemed structurally sound, but the exterior recommendations can be completed before the application is accepted. Perhaps the house needs a new roof, but the need of a new roof, new siding, and new windows is unacceptable. Would you be happy if a house in need of so many exterior repairs was looking back at you every time you looked out your window or sat on your porch? And given the timeline for so many repairs, we will be looking at that for too long. Please put yourselves in our shoes. 8, living on an acreage is very, very costly. But if someone can afford to purchase an acreage, put in a well, a sewer system, and utilities, build a foundation, and purchase and move in a house, they can afford to repair the exterior of that house before it is moved in to. If this house is deemed suitable to be relocated into the county, the beautiful photographs of our county on your website should be removed and replaced with its acceptable acreage developments. 9, further county bylaws. 8.10.2. Placement of a manufactured dwelling on a foundation must be done in accordance with the requirements of the Alberta Safety Codes Act and is the responsibility of the owner. This house is on blocks. It does not have a foundation. Until there is a permanent foundation, the county will have no idea about the required setback. 8.10.4. All manufactured dwellings must be skirted from ground to floor level with a durable finish that complements the existing exterior. This house has nothing to skirt, and who is going to supervise the quality of the skirting and the complement to the existing exterior when the entire exterior must be replaced? 8.10.5, a financial security of $5,000 shall be taken, as per the Wheatland County Master Fee Schedule, refunded once all the applicable conditions of the development permit are met and all exterior features are completed to the satisfaction of the development officer. $5,000 in 2022 is a penny. If an applicant chooses to ignore the conditions of the development permit, he will lose a $5,000 security deposit. The cost of replacing a roof, siding, and windows will be 10 times that. It would be much less costly to give up the security deposit. This county bylaw must be updated. Further concerns we need addressed. A, the applicant's timeline for a water well, mounted sewage system, electricity, and gas. B, the sewage and environmental issues in relation to Parflesh Creek. This acreage has, across the eastern diagonal, the watershed for Parflesh Creek. We assume the county went through the proper environmental channels to authorize this subdivision. In wetter years, the entire north end of the 80-acre parcel this acreage is sitting on is flooded. The water makes its way into Parflesh Creek and is the main source of water for cattle along its path. You will have received letters with these concerns and perhaps a photograph of one of those years. We have been in a drought for 2 to 3 years, so caution must be exercised in regards to Parflesh, not only in the sewage system, but use of acreage for storage of derelict vehicles, equipment, and garbage. C, a residential permit means the occupants are living full-time in the home. D, the residential permit will not grow into a commercial permit. We love our homes and our land. We need to know that the County of Wheatland stands behind us and loves our land as we do. We need to know there are bylaws in place for the use of a new acreage, what can be on the property and what cannot, and what it can be used for and what it cannot. We will hold the county responsible for our land values and our beautiful countryside. We strongly object to the approval of this application. The house has been relocated without pre-application and given the numerous major exterior requirements is not suitable to be on the property or located in our community and county. Thank you for listening. Sincerely, Keith Nelson and Donna Sandin Nelson. The second letter, September 7th, 2022, Wheatland County. It's titled Gordera Farms Limited, Brian and Shelley Rasmussen. Regarding objection to the development permit file, DP 2022-173, Division 1, legal plan is there, land use country residential, proposal dwelling manufactured, 36 by 24 modular dwelling. We have grave concerns that the applicant for the development permit has not followed Wheatland County bylaws. Was this dwelling moved onto the property after a development permit was obtained? LUB 8.12, dwelling moved on. When we examined the dwelling, we have concerns that it is not suitable dwelling by the county's LUB definitions of dwelling manufactured 1, 2, modular, or moved on. Was this dwelling inspected before it was moved on the site? LUB 8.10.7. It is indeed in a good state of repair. Is it indeed in a good state of repair and passes the Canadian Standards Association requirements? What is the extent of the repairs that are needed to be completed on the dwelling? What guarantee does the county have that the repairs will be made to this dwelling in a timely manner? Will this applicant be required to install utilities, i.e. sewer and water well? Is there a timely manner in which this will be done? What repercussions does the applicant face if the open sewer pit is utilized? Will there be restrictions of use due to watershed issues? We voice these concerns as we are a legacy farming operation and strive to keep our home, acreage, and all our lands in good presentation. Tidy yard does not happen by accident. It is a constant and ongoing process. We also strive to do our very best to be excellent stewards of the land. We have seen many instances in Wheatland County where occupants, farming, or acreage seem to flout the bylaws of the county. It seems almost impossible for the county to get residents to comply with bylaws once a mess has been amassed. If someone is showing blatant disregard to the rules from the outset, this is an indication that all due diligence should be followed by the county in order to stave off a disaster down the road. We want new neighbors to be aware and follow all applicable county land use bylaws. Sincerely, Shelley and Brian Rasmussen. Next letter, Sent Thursday, September 8th, 2022, 8:24 a.m. to Suzanne Hayes, subject refusal to building permit. To Municipal Planning Commission, I am writing today in regards to the letter received on September 3rd, 2022. I, Helga Matthews, being the landowner of the land located at, redacted, object to the house that is going to be moved to that location. After conversing with the renters of my land, I've determined that the house being moved there will seep sewage into the creek that is located on the land, which will have a negative effect on the wildlife and environment. I also have spoken with several other people from around the area and discovered that the person wishing to place the house there is a known collector of items, and I do not wish to have junk on that land as I fear it will never be cleaned up. As I was just willed to this land, I feel I was not given enough notice for this house to be moved. I've only had a week to contemplate the situation. I strongly oppose the placement of any home on aforementioned land. Thank you kindly, Helga Matthews. Next letter from Dallas and redacted, sent Thursday, September 8th, 2022 to Suzanne Hayes, subject development permit DP 2022-173. Dear Wheatland County Development Officer, we received your letter dated August 24th, 2022 in regards to the file number, Division 1, the legal land description on the letter, land use district, country residential, proposal, dwelling manufactured 2. The reply date indicates September 5th. However, I received a telephone call from a neighbor saying that the reply date was extended to September 8th, 2022. Thank you for the extension, as it was the weekend and September 5th was a statutory holiday. According to all the information in your letter, I have 3 comments. 1, first of all, your letter indicates that a decision needs to be made in order for this dwelling to be approved to be located on the site. However, I have driven past this site and the dwelling is already on the site. This makes no sense. If it has not been approved, then why is it on the site already? 2, secondly, your letter indicates that the dwelling was inspected and was deemed structurally sound, but requires repairs and or replacement of the roofing, siding, and windows. Are the roof, siding, and windows not part of the structure? So if these need repair and or replacement, then why is the dwelling already at the site without these required repairs and or replacements? These should be completed prior to moving this structure to the site. 3, third, there are no references in your letter regarding water, sewage, electricity, and gas for this property. How are these important environmental issues going to be addressed prior to approval? Regarding the bylaws, 8.10.2, placement of a manufactured dwelling on a foundation must be done in accordance with the requirements of the Alberta Safety Codes Act and is the responsibility of the owner. There is currently no foundation. Is there a timeline for this foundation? Before or after the required repairs and replacements are completed? If those are not completed, then no foundation is needed, because then the dwelling should not be approved. 8.10.4. All manufactured dwellings must be skirted from ground floor level with a durable finish that complements the existing exterior. First, the siding must be repaired or replaced. Then the structure may be approved to be located on this site. Following that approval, then the foundation and then the skirting has to complement the exterior. What is the timeline for this? How and when is this approved in the development process? 8.10.5, a financial security shall be taken as per Wheatland County Master Fee Schedule, refunded once all the applicable conditions of the development permit are met and all exterior features are completed to the satisfaction of the development officer. How much is the financial security? If the cost of the repairs and replacements to the foundation and skirting far exceed the financial security, why would we, the owner, spend thousands of dollars when the financial security is far less a price to pay? 8.10.7. Application for a development permit for manufactured dwelling 2 must include a pre-application inspection report prepared by a registered engineer or a safety code officer at the expense of the applicant. B, the report must identify the dwelling's structural integrity and suitability to be relocated into the county, providing recommendations on the dwelling's overall condition and any updates or renovations that must be made. C, color photos of all elevations and additions must be available. Following this bylaw, why are the recommendations for repairs and or replacements of roofing, siding, and windows not to be completed prior to the dwelling moving on the site? Why is there no mention in the application regarding water, sewage, electricity, and gas for this property? Should this not be addressed in the application? The dwelling is not suitable and water, sewage, electricity, and gas are also not currently planned and are not environmentally appropriate for this site, then the dwelling should not be approved for this country residential site. Regards, Dallas and Sandy Jensen. Third letter in this package from Maggie Glenn. Sent Thursday, September 8th, 2022, 9:59 p.m. to Suzanne, complaining against the DP and several attachments. Thursday, September 8th, 2022, regarding development of parcel Northwest 125-22-4, and the file number, to whom it may concern, regarding the dumping of an old and unsightly mobile home across the road, redacted. This is unsuitable. This unsuitable structure was literally placed there on topsoil on wooden blocks. No ground preparation and no services in place. The creek is sometimes dry and late in summer, turns onto this small parcel for about 10 to 15 feet. While I was told by Suzanne Hayes of Wheatland County Office that redaction did not realize he needed a development permit among other permits, it is my opinion that his ignorance is highly unlikely. I believe the redaction knows exactly what he is doing in flouting permits, bylaws, etc. Again, public information. And I dare say he knows exactly what he intends to do with his new acreage. It is public knowledge that redaction has been in a drawn-out battle with the village of Rockyford over the condition of his several properties and subsequent junk piles, including many, many derelict vehicles. My husband was informed by redaction himself in our yard that he would be moving a used mobile home onto the property but saw no need for services, saying that he would use the creek, he called it a dugout, as a water source. He also told our neighbors he would do this. Does individual intend to use the creek for his own personal sewage as well? The creek is the head of the waters of the Parflesh Creek, a subsidiary of the Crowfoot Creek. There's an aerial photo. Upon hearing the details of the conversation between my husband and an individual, I immediately called Alberta Environment, file number 401206, with our concerns over his intentions for this new subdivision zoned country residential. I also spoke with Chris Perman of Wheatland County, who said to notify him as soon as we saw a house moved onto the property. Will this be the case also when the junk piles arrive? And then we shall have another Wiseman corner directly on a watershed in an otherwise beautiful farming neighborhood. As instructed, the county was notified on or around Thursday, July 21st by my husband, individual, that there was now a very old and dilapidated double-wide mobile home sitting on blocks on topsoil with no foundation or groundwork, no permits, nothing. Being told to wait until bylaws are violated is a conundrum and counterproductive. Now the ruin sits there, supposedly inspected after the fact. And now when the junk collection of commercial proportions starts moving in, again a matter of public record, it will prove bylaws have no teeth and those overseeing the enforcement of them are already relying on future neighbors to be at odds with each other. Why, when the county has already has bylaws in place? The environmental concerns to this watershed are staggering, let alone the aesthetics, and it should not be up to the neighbors to police and fight to enforce the bylaws. We have been told the county has within its power to have the mobile home removed and country residential zoning enforced, which I hope means the acreage cannot be used to store derelict sheds, houses, and vehicles, and parts, and whatnot. Thank you, Margaret Jensen. And attached is a photo of the creek and the development.
Thank you. So regarding the circulation process, I wanted to touch on a few of the points that were raised in these letters. So prior to an application being put on an agenda for MPC to consider, it has to be deemed complete. So although we did have an application, we hadn't deemed it complete because we didn't have the inspection report yet. So once we got the inspection report, we were able to circulate the application. The September 5th date was put on the letter because we would be able to then include those letters in the package that's uploaded to the website. However, recognizing that the people were finding it a little bit difficult to respond by that date, I did extend it and said we would accept them right up until the date of MPC. So it is upon receiving the comment, so I said that. So the site plan and aerial photos are on page 16 of the agenda package. So I did look at the previous subdivision file because it was brought up several times in the circulation responses. And just a little bit of information on that. The parcel was subdivided 4 acres in 2011. And they did circulate to surrounding landowners within 800 meters, which was the rule at the time. They circulated to applicable agencies such as the Provincial Environment Department, which was called Alberta Sustainable Resource Development at the time. They reviewed the proposal and stated that there does not appear to be any public land, including Crown-owned water bodies, directly involved with this application, so the ASRD had no concerns. Pages 17 and 18, we have some photos. So the proposal is to allow this 36 by 24 modular dwelling that does not have the A277 certification as it was constructed approximately in 1980 to be allowed on the 4-acre parcel within Wheatland County. The dwelling was moved to the property without it obtaining the required permits. Staff commenced the enforcement process and the applicant submitted an application to see if it would be allowed to remain. If it's not approved, it would have to be removed from the site. Concerned residents have questioned why it had not been removed immediately, but an enforcement process such as that could take several months up to a year. And so it would be typical of our process that we have the applicant submit an application and go through the approval process first to see if it may remain rather than having it removed only to be brought back and go through the approval process after. So the land use bylaw provides 2 categories of manufactured dwellings based on the CSA standard, which was applicable when the dwelling was constructed at the factory. So the CSA A277 typically applies to dwellings from 1992 to present. So since this dwelling did not meet the A277 requirement, the application falls within the category of a dwelling manufactured type 2, which has certain submission requirements, such as a pre-application inspection report prepared by a registered engineer or a safety code officer at the expense of the applicant. The inspection must identify the dwelling's structural integrity and suitability to be relocated into the county, providing a recommendation on the dwelling's overall condition and any updates or renovations that must be made. They must also provide color photographs of all elevations. Staff recognized that the report was not completed prior to the application submission or prior to moving the dwelling on site. However, it was completed according to bylaw requirements by a reputable safety codes officer. The report stated that after a thorough inspection of the double wide at this location, it was determined that the structural integrity of the unit is sound, and there are a number of items that need to be addressed. The siding is in need of repair, the roofing is in need of repair or replacement, windows to be repaired and replaced in the near future, and the foundation to be constructed to meet code, complete with a way to fasten the unit to concrete. In other words, the report indicates that the dwelling is basically sound and would be suitable if the repairs were completed. Concerned residents feel these repairs should be completed prior to moving the dwelling to a parcel in Wheatland County, but it is unlikely that the previous owners of the dwellings would allow renovations to occur on their property before it's moved off-site by a purchaser. The items in need of repair become part of the development permit conditions, along with the necessity for skirting, stairs, and other aesthetic renovations. The LUB requires a $5,000 deposit until the items are completed as an incentive to complete the work. However, all conditions must be completed within 24 months of the effective date, as stated in the land use bylaw. Once the aesthetic items are completed, staff will review the work to see if it is satisfactory for return of the deposit. Safety code permits are required after the development permit has been issued, since it would be pointless to obtain those permits if the development is not allowed to proceed. Items identified by the inspection report and any other item requiring a safety code permit such as building, electrical, gas, plumbing, or private sewage will be inspected by the safety codes officer certified in the respective discipline. A septic system will need to go through the required permitting process, which includes having a study completed to identify the soil types, best location, and ensure it will meet the required setbacks to waterways. In the subdivision file that I did look at, a private sewage report had been completed, which stated that a septic system would be acceptable on the parcel on the west side. However, a new report would be required for the private sewage permit due to the length of time that's passed since the previous one was done. So initially, the applicant considered having a cistern installed to provide water to the dwelling. However, upon further investigation, he has concluded that he will probably have a well instead. Concerns were raised indicating the parcel is prone to flooding. Staff reviewed historical aerial photos as far back as 2000, and they showed water over the northeast corner, at least at the time the aerial photos were taken. The completed dwelling will need to be placed according to the location approved on the site plan, which is approximately 200 feet from the path of the water course, which meets the county setback of 100 feet from a water body. Adjacent landowners have raised concerns that vehicles or other items will be stored on the property in the future, causing environmental issues and pollution of the creek. However, staff and the Development Authority may only consider the current application and not future issues or any particular person in the decision-making process. We must consider the land use bylaw versus a people use bylaw in our decision-making. So issues of an unsightly nature will need to be addressed if and when they occur. However, the applicant was made aware of the concerns of the neighbors, and he advised that he intends to build a shop for storage in the future. In conclusion, the submission requirements of the land use bylaw were put in place to provide sufficient information for staff to make a recommendation and to allow the Development Authority to make an informed decision on these types of applications. The comments provided by the Safety Codes Officer confirm the structural integrity of the unit is sound, and staff were able to use the report to draft appropriate conditions for remaining work to be completed on the dwelling. So the conclusion and recommendation are on page 9 of the agenda package. Staff are recommending approval for the dwelling manufactured type 2, subject to the conditions, including condition number 5 that says prior to any work to renovate, repair, construct, or alter the dwelling, a deposit of $5,000 to be submitted by the applicant and refunded upon foundation finish with appropriate material, exterior stairs to be installed if required, exterior finish to the satisfaction of the development officer, roofing, windows, and paint complete to the satisfaction of the development officer, any other items as deemed necessary, and all of the items identified in the mobile home inspection report dated August 15th as per the following, and they are listed there. And a note, all applicable safety code permits must be obtained prior to any work being completed. This includes private sewage permit, gas, electrical, plumbing, and building permits. MPC has the standard 3 options to consider, which are found on page 13. And that concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. MPC's wishes.
I move to not approve the recommendation as proposed. In this case, I must implore you all to oppose this development application. I will remind everyone that the county residential district is meant to provide for acreage development for predominantly residential purposes that is aligned with the policies of the municipal development plan. And the municipal development plan's purpose is to provide a general picture of what the county is to look like in the future and overall direction on how this can be achieved. I will argue that this residence is not what the general picture of what the county is to look like. I've heard from the residents of this applicant, and they are not just concerned, they are horrified that this mobile home has already been moved onto the site. They have learned that this resident has been pushed out of Rockyford because of his inability to conform to their unsightly premises bylaw, and our residents are concerned that his intention is to move all manner of junk onto this property. We also feel that his moving this mobile home without any regard for the proper process and consultation is a horrendous infringement on their rights to protect their property values and keep their part of the county the beautiful place that it is. I understand that this applicant who has purchased this 4-acre parcel has the right to put a home on it. However, the home that he has already moved onto this site is in stark contrast to the neighboring properties. This house has been plopped down on blocks in the middle of a previously farmed parcel without clearing any topsoil or building any access road or indeed providing any utilities. It's sitting out on the prairie like an ugly scar. The house does not reflect the area in Wheatland County that he wants to put it. It would greatly affect his neighbors, both in reducing property values and in reducing their quality of life. I would ask that you please consider Section 8.10.1 of the Land Use Bylaw, where the Development Authority reserves the right to refuse a development permit for a manufacturing dwelling that is of poor appearance or condition. If that's not enough to convince you to vote against it, then consider that this person is a business owner from the area who likely knows there are rules as to what can be placed on a property in Wheatland County. I would guess that he knew what he was doing and decided that it's easier to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission. He's counting on us to not want to refuse it now that is on site. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Discussion.
I agree. Good work.
Yes, Commissioner.
And I totally agree with that too. But the question I would have is, how is this different than the one that's right beside what most of us know as Dutchman Slough? It's also unsightly, and how did it get approved? Like I'm kind of thinking there's a bigger picture here we need to address. I think we should not approve this, but I think we need to have a broader discussion about how these things get started.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Commissioner Bigger.
When an acreage goes in, it's usually the subdivision is approved with the approval of an approach. This doesn't even have an approach. So that acreage has been sold without an approach. How would that happen too?
I did talk to our transportation department, and they went out and drove by and said there is an approach there.
There is.
Yeah, it doesn't show up well on the aerial photos. I didn't think there was one either.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Clausen.
I hear what you're saying. I understand it. And we had looked at this before, and it's a hard one. A lot of the things that have been said today are very personal. It has to do with the landowner, not the use of the land. And we're here mostly for the use of the land. You have to give everybody a chance. And the structure of this building is been deemed safe, which is what we outlined before. Exterior stuff, windows, siding, roof, that is exterior structure is different to me. I look at somebody renovating their home, and with taking the person out of the equation and looking at the use, I don't have a problem with it. But if you put the person in the equation, it's different. But that's not what we're here for. It's prejudging, and I have a real hard time with prejudging something. And yes, it could be a disaster, but we have bylaw. We have people that are available to do that and deal with it. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
So I think a $5,000 deposit is too small to ensure that the kinds of renovations we're talking about, these are pricey renovations. This is basically to take the bones of it and completely recover it. It's going to cost them some money, and so $5,000, why not just pay the $5,000 and do a half-hearted job? I mean, I don't think it compels somebody to improve the look of it to the point that it would be fit the neighborhood, I guess. So that's an issue, and I guess I would say that if we approve it, then I think we'll have to reconsider our budget for bylaw officers, and because they're going to be out there continually. And the residents are right. Once things start piling up, it is very hard to clean it up.
Yes, Commissioner Kester.
Last year, this wouldn't even be allowed in here because it doesn't have the CSA 8277. And that was implemented years ago just for these reasons. When council decided they would consider not having that, it was in regards to previous buildings that were well maintained and in presentable condition, and people look after things, and why are we discriminating against them? If this was the one we were talking about, I think we were badly misled. This is the reason why we put in that original 8277 condition. And yeah, I'm strongly opposed to it. I just opposed to it. It doesn't fit into the county. And this isn't the first one we've had to have removed or taken out. And the guy can build a brand new house and do what some people do with their possessions, and we have ways to deal with it, yeah, but that's not the issue here. The issue is this particular building and its presentation, and it is not what my dream of the county was.
Right.
We've been fighting for this ever since I've been on council. It's something we want the county to look better at. Why would you let something in and then think they're going to? Why didn't they fix it up before they brought it in? No, I can't agree to it.
So I've got a couple of questions to administration. This is, whatever our decision we make is appealable.
That is correct. The applicant could appeal it, or any affected landowner could appeal it.
Define affected landowner.
I think that's open to interpretation, and I think anybody that kind of deems that they're affected, the SDAB could make a decision and decide if they had leave to hear the application if they thought they were affected.
So we've got, and I understand what Commissioner Kester said, but putting an age on a building does mean it's absolutely nothing. I live in a house that was built in 1948. You walk into that house, you will assume, other than the cabinets, that this house is a house that's been built in the last 10 years because I have done extensive renovations. Age has nothing to do with it. We can make whatever decision we want to make here. My feeling is that if we go against what administration has done here, because we are working on the principle of what could happen, and I don't think we, as a land use, can make that decision. We have to assume that the person doing this, after finding out that he couldn't move the thing in without permission, is going to follow all the rules. That's what we have to assume. It may not be the case, but that is what we have to assume doing. So it's unfortunate, but so question to administration. The work going forward, the building permits and all this kind of stuff, will the owner be, is there some sort of a penalty system in effect on the owner?
Correct. So when somebody does something without getting permits, they're charged double. So he has been charged double the development permit fee, and he will be charged double the safety code permit fees.
But what you're suggesting is that we trust that this person will follow the rules when he hasn't yet.
Yes, Commissioner Kester.
There seems to be a lot of opposition, and the chances are high that this, whatever the decision is, going to be appealed. Why are we making the area residents that are following the rules be the ones that would appeal it? And the one that doesn't follow the rules and just plops it down without a permit is the one that doesn't have to appeal it. I think the onus is on the one that wants the improvement to appeal it if it doesn't go their way. That's the only, for me, the only fair way. So if you're going to make a decision knowing it's going to be appealed, vote in favor of Shannon's motion and let the landowner appeal it, because it's his property and it's his, he should have checked it out beforehand. Why penalize the area's residents? And then they can come and do the whole thing all over again in front of the Subdivision Appeal Board.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Yes, Commissioner Clausen.
Just curious, because we did go through this recently, which allowed this to happen. Is there a way, or can we increase the deposit, and can we deem that anybody that brings something prior to and isn't up to standard, is there a way of letting them know that? Because this could happen more often.
So we're not allowed to amend the cost of the refundable deposit today because it would have to go through council. It's part of the master fee schedule. So that would be a separate discussion. And I'm not sure if I understand the second part of your question.
So people are bringing these to their land that they've purchased and own and storing them there until they get permission to upgrade them. And if, and the common thing is they don't look right, and it's exterior finishes or whatever. Are they allowed to do that prior to moving them? And how will we regulate that?
So you're saying have it renovated before it gets moved to the site?
Yeah.
I don't know how we would do that.
I'm just trying to make a point. I'm not. Yeah. It's really difficult. So.
Yeah.
I've been around lots of homes that have been moved, older homes moved, new homes built and moved, and they're always look bad at the start. But from what the people have said here, the structure is sound, and that's what we had asked for in that bylaw. So, I understand what everybody's saying. Where I'm at.
Any more discussion? There's none. I will call the vote. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Question to administration about timing of the repairs that are outlined in the conditions, the time frame for that, and then we'll start there.
So in our land use bylaw, there is a rule that says from the effective date, an applicant has 24 months to complete the development. So the effective date is when the appeal date, either the appeal expiry date or the date a decision is made if there was an appeal. So he'll have 2 years for that. If he is working with reasonable diligence, the bylaw says it needs to be completed within 24 months. I mean, there is an option for a one-time extension as well. So if he wasn't complete in 24 months, he could request an extension for a fee.
Sorry, go ahead.
And so what if that hasn't happened in 24 months? What rights do we have now to get him off there?
Then it would be an enforcement process at that point. So we would have to say you're in contravention of your development permit conditions. And then I guess if he didn't request an extension, I suspect we would try and work with him if he did request an extension, because you're allowed a one time an extension. But if he didn't, then I guess we'd be in the enforcement process. It would have to be removed.
So,
Oh, sorry, Sherry. Sure.
Through the chair to the commission, I'd like to add that at the same time that complicates this a little is once he gets his development permit, he will be applying for all his safety code permits. And those will depend, for example, the building permit alone is also a 2-year permit, but he can extend that multiple times. There is no fee for the first 6 months, and then there's a fee each multiple 6 months that he extends his permit. But as it's been suggested, that as long as he's working towards that and the inspections of the safety code officer goes out, they'll extend those permits. And so it will be difficult that if he doesn't extend his development permit, he may be extending his building permits. So we end up with an issue where we're trying to work with 2 different issues, with a safety code permit and a development permit.
and also one more question. So our enforcement would involve fining him, or could we actually have it removed after all of that?
We have both options. We can do both. We can do one. We can do either or. We'd have to go through an injunction order to have it removed, and we go on the land, or just ask him to remove it, first of all, and then an injunction order, which is a very lengthy process. If we do fines, it would go through the provincial court system, and we have to provide a burden of evidence that he's been in contravention, etc.
Sounds very onerous to me. Sounds like we'll never be able to change it after the fact.
Commissioner Link.
Can administration speak to how you evaluate reasonable diligence and outline if we've seen examples of that historically?
I can think of one example off the top of my head. There was a lady that had got a permit for a moved-on dwelling, and we got some complaints that, oh, it's been more than 2 years, she's not finished. So I did contact her and said, like, how are you doing on your development? And she said, we are having such a hard time getting materials right now. And so she said, but, you know, here's the receipt from Rona that I've ordered this stuff. And she said, I've hired contractors. So she said, can I get an extension for a year? So in that case, I could definitely see she was trying with reasonable diligence.
So I see that as being an ongoing issue. We still have problems getting materials. I see this going on for years and years of having this half completed project. I'm very opposed.
Yes, Commissioner Clausen.
I have seen in other municipalities buildings that are non-compliant and they don't get occupancy, and it's gone on for decades where people have lived in it. I know the opposite side of this. I've seen it firsthand, and I know it's a battle. So I recognize all sides of it. It's just you're assuming the worst at the start, and it's easy to do that, and it's just not a place I like to be. You know, I like to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but I will support whatever comes out of this.
Yes, Commissioner Kester.
I've also seen it the other way. I've had a house moved on in a different spot in the county. Was plopped down, no permits, no nothing. After residents come in and objected, the house had to be moved. The house moved down the road a few miles into a different county. That was 15 years ago. I dare say it's been touched since. It's just been plopped down in there, and it's sitting there. Nothing's touched it. So it's the other way too. I'm not willing to take a chance. Fix it up first.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I think for me, I will be relying on the provision in our land use bylaw. Sorry, I did have it. Sorry. where the Development Authority does reserve the right to refuse a DP for a manufactured dwelling that is of poor appearance or conditions. I'm solely focused, I think we really have to not contemplate the potential developer or the potential, we can't contemplate the applicant. We very much just need to focus on what's before us in terms of the conditions. I realize that we have the safety codes inspection, and I think that sort of speaks to the structural integrity and the safety codes element of it. But then we also have an opportunity for engagement with adjacent landowners, and to me, there's been sufficient evidence that this manufactured dwelling is not consistent with basically the environment that it's being contemplated to be, that the application is being applied for in, due to appearance. And I do think that we need to have some further conversation just about how to assess these, or I guess consider these applications going forward in the future, because I see the challenge that Commissioner Clausen raised with requiring work prior to it being moved on, and I think that would be optimal if there's a way to do that for the future. But I recognize that there's challenges in that. But we've heard clearly from adjacent landowners that this is not consistent with the landscape in that area. And so based on that, and again, I think we need to have maybe at Committee of the Whole or at Council some discussion just around the land use bylaw, and if there's a way to improve this process, I guess. So, but I would be relying on that clause where we can reserve the right to refuse based on poor appearance or conditions, in conjunction with concerns outlined by adjacent landowners.
I was just going to say that I don't feel like I'm taking a pessimistic view. I feel like I'm taking a realistic view. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yes, Commissioner Link.
Yeah, and my only caution is I just think we have to be very objective. Like we can't consider any conjecture. And I realize it's frustrating for ratepayers. We have had another instance where there was sort of anticipated issues with a bylaw, and it does come down to, it's just like policing. Police cannot police based on an anticipated, breaking of a law. It is unfortunate, but you do need to wait until a law is broken. It is frustrating to me that our application processes were ignored as well for this development.
So we have a motion in front of us. Just before I call the vote, I'm just going to state that I too am very reticent to prejudge an individual. I believe that individual could have honestly made a mistake when he moved the material. Like I'm not going to judge him on why he did it, like what the deal was on why it happened, and then to just judge him what the worst thing that could happen. So I will be voting against the vote, but I will call the vote. All in favor of Commissioner.
Can we just clarify the motion? Yes. So the motion was to refuse the application.
The motion is that MPC refuses the proposed application.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? That is passed. Thank you, everybody. It was a great discussion. I believe that we should bring some of this stuff back for any new bylaw will need to be tweaked as we run into situations on it. So we'll move on to subdivision applications, SD 2022-002.
Good morning, MPC. Taylor Felt here presenting subdivision application SD 2022-002. which is a proposal to create a 7.44 acre parcel with a 72.56 acre remainder within Northwest 172424 west of the 4th Meridian. Referring to page 30 of your agenda package, you can locate the proposed parcel 2.5 kilometers east of the town of Strathmore and 0.8 kilometers north on Highway 1 on the east side of Range Road 245. The proposed Lot 1 is undeveloped. However, future plans consider the construction of a dwelling serviced by on-site private water and wastewater infrastructure. The applicant provided studies that indicate servicing can be provided to the proposed parcel. Lot 1 requires the construction of a new approach to the access, which I've captured in the subdivision conditions. The remainder parcel, Lot 2, is developed with a dwelling, detached garage, and several farm and accessory buildings, and is accessed by an approach to Range Road 245 to the west. Servicing is provided by means of a water well and a private sewage treatment system. Both Lot 1 and Lot 2 will remain in the Agricultural General Land Use District, which is in accordance with the county's land use bylaw. Administration circulated the application to internal and external stakeholders and landowners within a 1 mile radius, and no objections were received. In accordance with Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act, reserves are required if the subdivision is approved, and proposed Lot 1 will be the third parcel taken out of the quarter section. The proposal generally aligns with the provincial and county statutory plans, as well as the county's land use bylaw. And with that, administration is recommending that MPC approve subdivision application SD 2022-002, subject to the conditions I've included on page 25 and 26 of your agenda package, which I will pull back up on screen here. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Taylor. MPC's wishes?
I'll move that MPC approve subdivision application SD 2022-002, subject to the recommended conditions in the package.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is passed. We'll move on to SD 2022-006.
Taylor Felt here again, presenting subdivision application SD 2022-006, which is a proposal to create a 5.09 acre parcel with a 34.91 acre remainder parcel within Northeast 162424 west of the 4th. Referring to page 39 of your agenda package, you can locate the proposed parcel 1.25 kilometers north of Highway 1 on the west side of Range Road 243, and that's just directly north of the county office here. The proposed Lot 1 is not developed, although future plans again consider the construction of a dwelling serviced by on-site private water and wastewater infrastructure, and the applicant has provided studies that support on-site servicing. The proposed Lot 1 features a periodic wetland, which you can see on the screen here, that Alberta Parks and Environment has not classified as a permanent wetland, but will be retained on the land. Lot 2 is developed with a dwelling, shop, and equestrian facilities comprising of a riding arena and stables for boarding horses. Servicing of Lot 2 is provided by means of a well and a private sewage treatment system. The existing approaches to both the proposed Lot 1 and Lot 2 will need to be inspected prior to endorsement, but both parcels will remain within the Agricultural General Land Use District, which is an appropriate designation as per the land use bylaw. Administration circulated this application to internal and external stakeholders and adjacent landowners within a 1 mile radius, and no objections were received. In accordance with Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act, reserves are required, as the proposed Lot 1 will be the third parcel subdivided from the quarter section. The proposal generally aligns with the provincial and county statutory plans, as well as the county's land use bylaw. And with that, administration is recommending that MPC approve application SD 2022-006, subject to the conditions I've included on page 35 and 34 here. And I'll pull them back up on the screen. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Taylor. MPC's wishes?
I'll move that MPC approve subdivision application SD 2022-006, subject to the conditions included in the package.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. Discussion? Yes, Commissioner Larson.
I think it's worth noting that Alberta Transportation offered some comments on this, that the requirements of Section 14 of the regulation is not met for minimal impact to highway operations and future highway planning. Also, they're saying that the requirements of Section 15 of the regulation isn't met. Suitable access to Municipal Road is available, and they're saying, please be advised that Highway 1 will attain freeway status. All future access will be by interchanges, and the nearest interchange will be Highway 21. So I would just like administration to comment on that for us.
Okay.
Through the chair, so these regulations are under the Subdivision and Development Regulations, Section 16. Whenever a proposed subdivision is within a certain radius of Alberta transportation jurisdiction, they have the authority to make comment and conditions to approve or not approve the application. Essentially what they're saying here is that they are waiving their right to Section 15 and Section 14 and deferring that decision on to the Municipal Planning Commission. That also means that if this were to be appealed, that it would go to the SDAB and not the LPRT at the provincial level. They've essentially commented saying that they're waiving these rights and they don't have concerns with the proposal.
Right, and I get that. I just wondered, what are the ramifications for us? We approve it, then they say, yeah, no, maybe not. But can they come back on us and say, we warned you, we told you could make the decision, but you made the wrong decision?
Through the chair, they wouldn't be able to come back after the decision is made because the appeal body would be the local appeal body rather than the provincial.
Thank you. Good question, Commissioner Larson. Any more discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is passed. We move on to SD 2022-007.
You just have to hear my voice for a few more files here. Taylor Felt here again, presenting subdivision application SD 2022-007, which is a proposal to create a 3-acre parcel with a 6.29 acre remainder parcel within Northwest 2424 west of the 4th Meridian. Referring to page 48 of your agenda package, you can locate the proposed parcel 2.8 kilometers east of the town of Strathmore on the east side of Range Road 245. The proposed Lot 1 was redesignated to Country Residential District in March of this year, which is an appropriate designation under the land use bylaw. Lot 2 will remain in the agricultural district. The proposed Lot 1 is undeveloped, and as such there is no servicing infrastructure, and a new approach constructed to county standards will be required prior to endorsement. Future servicing to Lot 1 has been proposed by means of a water well and private sewage treatment system. The county has received a groundwater assessment and a private sewage treatment system assessment from the applicants in support of their proposal, and both documents indicated that the proposed parcel is suitable for on-site servicing infrastructure. Lot 2 is developed with a dwelling, garage, several accessory buildings, and associated servicing infrastructure, and is accessed by an existing approach to Range Road 245 to the west. Administration circulated the application to internal and external stakeholders and landowners within a 1-mile radius, and no objections were received. And in accordance with Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act, reserves are required, as the proposed Lot 1 will be the 5th parcel to be subdivided from the quarter section. All future subdivisions will require an area structure plan. And the proposal, again, generally aligns with the provincial and statutory plans, as well as the county's land use bylaw. And with that, administration is recommending that MPC approve subdivision application SD 2022-007, subject to the conditions included on page 43 of your agenda package. And that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Taylor. MPC's wishes. Yes.
I move that
Commissioner Clausen.
Municipal Planning Commission approve subdivision application SD 2022-007, subject to the following conditions on page 43 and 44 of the agenda.
Thank you.
That's 1 through. One sec here, just so I can clear.
Discussion.
6.
Sorry, discussions. Yes.
Do we, since this is application 007, do we need a Walter PPK to approve it?
I do not believe we need it on this.
Shows how old we are, because most people got that.
I didn't, just for the record.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I heard you laugh.
I have one if you want to see a picture of it.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is passed.
Sorry, we've just been so serious so far. We need to stay present.
We'll move on to 3.4 SD 2022-011.
Morning, committee members. Stefan Kuntz presenting on behalf of administration. So this application proposes to create a 16.12 acre parcel with a 143.88 acre remainder. As you can see from the land location map, the lands are located 13 kilometers north of the town of Strathmore, 800 meters north of Township Road 260, and on the west side of Range Road 253. Turning to the air photo map, you can see the proposed lot, lot 1 here. It is developed with dwelling, number of accessory buildings, and on-site servicing infrastructure in place. Obviously the well and private sewage treatment system, all located within lot 1. Lot 2 is used for agricultural purposes. It's a large agricultural site, so they're not required to provide for servicing at this time. Access to the lands is available to the east, to Range Road 253. There are two accesses, to lot 1. I actually see this better on the tentative plan. 2 accesses to lot 1 and 1 access to lot 2. Being the first parcel out of the quarter section, there are no concerns with respect to the policy. Obviously, this meets all of our development goals, and also the municipal reserve does not apply as well. So we are recommending approval, subject to the standard set of conditions, obviously the plan survey, taxes and fees, the inspection of the approaches, and the road widening easements. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to take questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. MPC's wishes? Yes, Commissioner Clausen.
I'll make the motion that MPC approve subdivision application SD 2022-01 subject to the following conditions 1 through 6 on page 52 and 53 of the agenda.
Thank you. Discussion.
I just want to make sure that in the comments it says, please ensure the new property boundaries allow for setbacks to be met. Have we done that?
Through the chair, yes.
Perfect.
Very good.
More discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's passed. We move on to SD, or item 3.5, SD 2022-013.
Taylor Felt back again to present subdivision application SD 2022-013. This proposal is to create a 5.34 acre parcel with a 176.79 acre remainder. Parcel within northeast and southeast 352524 west of the 4th meridian. Referring to page 65 of your agenda package, which I have up on the screen here, you can locate the proposed parcel immediately south of Highway 564 on the west side of Range Road 241. The proposed Lot 1 is developed with several detached farm and accessory buildings. and a dwelling serviced by on-site well and private sewage treatment system. At this time, the remainder parcel, Lot 2, will continue to be used for agricultural production, and no development or servicing has been proposed at this time. Access to Lot 2 and the proposed Lot 1 is via shared approach to Range Road 241 to the east, which will require a mutual access agreement to be executed by the applicant prior to endorsement. And Lot 2 is also accessed via an approach from Highway 564 to the north. Administration circulated the application to internal and external stakeholders and landowners within a 1 mile radius, and no objections were received. In accordance with Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act, reserves are not required for this subdivision, as the proposed Lot 1 is considered the first parcel to be subdivided from the quarter section. And the proposal generally aligns with the provincial and county statutory and non-statutory plans. And with that, administration is recommending that MPC approve subdivision SD 2022-013, subject to the standard conditions, which I'll pull up on page 60 and 61 of the package here. And with that, that's my presentation. If there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Taylor. MPC's wishes. Yes, Commissioner Larson.
Just a question for you on with the technical services comment from Transportation and Public Works says one gravel approach inspection required. Not sure if this is to be a shared approach or not, and then that the north approach for a large parcel is under Alberta Transportation jurisdiction. I'm a little concerned with the not sure. There seems to be some.
Through the chair, my apologies. I have addressed this comment with our manager of operations and did not update the comment here. Yes, the approach is shared, but we'll also need to meet the county standards, and that's why we're also requiring that mutual access agreement.
Good. Yeah, not sure just caused me some concern, so thank you.
My apologies.
Yes, Commissioner Kester.
I move that the Municipal Planning Commission approve subdivision application SD 2022-13, subject to the conditions on pages 60 and 61 of this current package.
Thank you. Discussion.
Can I just ask what the subdivision is south of this parcel? Is it something that's...
What's that? I didn't quite hear that.
Pardon me?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm curious what the subdivision is south of the Lot 1 and Lot 2?
That's Baintree.
Oh, Baintree. Oh, I see. Sorry.
What was Baintree?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is passed. We are done. We are adjourned. Thank you very, very much.